Good evening, everybody. This is John Ellis with Bernie 2016 TV, and I thought I'd go live quickly with Tom Perez here. This is in Louisville. It's at Louisville Palace. This is in McTurtle territory, and then Bernie should be up shortly after, so I just thought we'd go live with this, and you can join us. I'll find a hashtag. We'll track that on Twitter. And here's Tom. He's riling everybody up. He's doing a real good job. So here you go.
And that's why I'm proud to be a Democrat. We believe that voting rights should be sacred, and we should be making it easier for eligible people to vote, not harder. That is what we believe. And folks, we believe that facts matter. You know, alternative facts should be an oxymoron.
I want to say a big thank you to Wave 3 News for bringing this to us on Facebook.
Because you enabled us across this country to tell members of Congress, get your head out of your you-know-what and look at the effect of the Affordable Care Act. Look at how it's helping people. That's what you have done, folks. You have built this movement. We have energy. We have opportunity, and we've got to channel that energy. And as we do so, we need to be mindful of the words of Bobby Kennedy. In the height of the civil rights movement, and the civil rights movement, the labor movement, as you know, went hand in hand. The March on Washington was a march for jobs. It was a march for justice. I am a man. I also deserve justice. Civil rights and labor rights. And Bobby Kennedy, when he was with Cesar Chavez in the 1960s, he said something that is so apt today. He said, and I quote, "We stand at a defining moment in history, a moment that he called the point of difficulty and danger that would determine our country's future." And he went on to say further that when your children and grandchildren take their place in America, taking good jobs at good pay, when you look at them, when you look at each and every one of them, you will tell them, I was there. I stood up. I marched. I did this. My friends, that's what you have been doing, and that's what we will continue to do, marching forward, putting our values into action, building a Democratic Party that works for everyone, listening to all of you, building a progressive movement that works for everyone, making sure that we live by our ideals in America, understanding what Dr. King said when he said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it indeed bends toward justice. My friends, it doesn't bend on its own. Let's bend it together, and let's bend it with Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. I bring to you Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Louisville! Thank you. Are you ready to make history? Well, that's what tonight is about. Let me begin by thanking the band Relic for their great music. Thanking Crit Llewellyn and Allison Grimes and Sandy Overly and Kyle Henderson and John Yarmouth and Austin, Jamie Harrison, Chairman Tom Perez. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you. You live in one of the most beautiful states in this country, and I've had the opportunity to be here on a number of occasions. And today, when I think about Kentucky, a couple of thoughts come to mind. Number one, I think back to the Woody Guthrie song that focused on Harlan County in the 1930s and the very, very bitter strike that took place in the coal mines. And Woody Guthrie wrote a song which is as relevant today as it was back in the 30s in Harlan County. And that song said, "Which side are you on?" And our job is to make it clear that we are on the side of the working families of this country and that we are prepared to take on the billionaire class, Wall Street, corporate America, the insurance companies, and the drug companies. We know which side we are on. And the other thought that I had this morning as we came to Louisville is that you were the home of one of the most popular and one of the greatest Americans in modern history, Muhammad Ali. And when I hear all of the Islamophobia and all of the attacks on Muslims, let's tell every American that Muhammad Ali was a proud Muslim. Tonight, I want to talk about a very, very radical concept. Are you ready for a radical concept? All right. Here it is. It's called democracy. And what democracy is really about, to quote a good Republican, Abe Lincoln, it's about government of the people, by the people, for the people. And what that means today is that we demand a government which represents all of us, not just the 1%. We demand a government which represents working people and not just wealthy campaign contributors. Now, sometimes the media, because they have nothing else to do, they kind of make politics very, very complicated, and they're all full of political gossip and all kinds of stuff that nobody outside of the Beltway is interested in. This is what politics is about, and it's not really hard. What politics is about in a democratic society is that we come together as we are this evening, and we say, what are the problems facing our country? What are the causes of those problems? How do we go forward by resolving those problems? That's about it. That's called democracy. It's not stupid 30-second ads. It's not people attacking each other all over the place. That's what it's about. But in order to be honest and to be truthful to the democratic process, we have got to have the courage to look our problems in the eye and not sweep them under the rug. We have got to ask ourselves, very simple question which you will not see on television. How does it happen that at a time of exploding technology, when every worker in this room, in this state, and in this country is producing a lot more than he or she would have been producing 20 or 30 years ago? Why is it that over the last 40 years, the middle class of this country is shrinking? Why is it that we have 43 million people living in poverty and sometimes desperate poverty, struggling to put food on the table for the children? Why does it happen that with the middle class shrinking and so many living in poverty, 52% of all new income generated today is going to the top 1%? Why does it happen that in America today we have more wealth and income inequality than any other major country? How does it happen that the top 1/10 of 1%, not 1%, 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%? How does it happen that the 20 wealthiest people, 20 people right here, own, well, not quite right here, I suspect, but the 20 wealthiest people in this country now own more wealth than the bottom half of the American people? How does it happen that one family, the Walton family of Walmarts, own as much wealth as the bottom 42% of the American people? One family. And by the way, might I say with regard to the Waltons, we hear a whole lot of Republican attacks on people who are on welfare. Do you know which family is the major welfare recipient in America today? It is the Walton family, the wealthiest family in this country. Because they pay their workers wages that are so low that people cannot live on, many workers at Walmart are on Medicaid, they are on food stamps, they are in affordable housing that you are paying for. So I say tonight to the Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, get off of welfare, pay your workers a living wage. What politics, real politics, and real democracy is also about is trying to understand what goes on in the lives of our brothers and sisters in Vermont, in Kentucky, all over this great country. And these are issues that most politicians don't talk about, issues you very rarely see in the corporate media. But here's the reality. In my state, and in your state, you got people who are working not one job, they're working two jobs, maybe they're working three jobs, just to cobble together enough income and health care to take care of their families. In America today, you have workers who are 60, 62 years of age, who have worked their entire lives, and yet half of the older workers in this country have virtually nothing in the bank as they face retirement. Think about the fear, the anxiety that people are experiencing all over this country. You work your entire life, you work hard, but your wages are not keeping up with your costs. You're facing retirement. And then you got people like Mitch McConnell and others who are talking about cutting Social Security. In America today, in my state, and I know in your state, I want you to put yourself in the heads of these people. In America, you got a single mom. Right here in Louisville or in Burlington, Vermont, she's making $35,000, $40,000 a year. She has a beautiful 2-year-old. It costs her $10,000 or $15,000 a year to place a kid in decent child care. Well, how do you afford child care on $30,000, $40,000 a year? You got elderly people all over this country who are getting ripped off by the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. And the elderly people, and I've talked to them in Vermont, they are cutting their pills in half. You got people today, in fact, 1 out of 5 Americans who goes to a doctor because they're sick, they get a prescription, they cannot afford to fill that prescription. How insane is that? But the drug companies make tens of billions of dollars a year by ripping us off. Despite the success and the gains of the Affordable Care Act, 28 million Americans today still have no health insurance. Now, what do you do when you feel a pain in your chest, but you don't have the money or the insurance to go to the doctor? What do? You don't go. And if you talk to doctors, as I do in my state and all over this country, very few doctors will not tell you that they have lost patients. Patients have died from preventable illnesses because they got into the doctor's office too late, because they lacked insurance, or because their deductibles and co-payments were too high. That is the reality in America today. We have millions of people who are living in pain. And one of the clearest examples of that, and this is really kind of unbelievable, but in many parts of this country, for the first time in the modern history of our nation, life expectancy is going down. People are living shorter lives than their parents. The history of the modern world, by and large, certainly in America, is that our generation lives longer than our parents, who lived longer than their parents, for the obvious reasons of improved health care and public health and so forth. But right now, millions of people in this country are living in such incredible despair, such hopelessness, that they are turning to opiates, they're turning to heroin, they're turning to alcohol, they are turning to suicide. This is horrific. And we have got to ask ourselves, why is this happening? And the answer is, there are a lot of answers, but it gets beyond pharma and it gets beyond the pharmaceutical industry. It gets to the fact that many of our people are looking around them. They got jobs which are taking them nowhere. Their kids are in even worse shape. Kids can't afford to go to college. They have a hard time putting food on the tables. They're looking around them and they're saying, what's the point? This is America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. People should not be living in that kind of despair. And when we talk about democracy, and when we talk about courage and the need to confront the very, very serious problems that we face, we also have got to take a hard look at the causation of many of these problems. And in my view, the primary reason that the middle class of this country has been in decline for the last 40 years, the reason we have lost millions of decent paying manufacturing jobs that have gone to China and to Mexico. The reason that unions all over this country are being broken has a lot to do with the incredible greed of corporate America. And we have got to put that issue on the table. Everybody in this room, certainly I do, everybody in America wants to make sure that we earn enough income to live a good life, that we have some money perhaps to leave to our kids, that we have a good retirement. That's natural. But what is not natural is the kind of greed that we are seeing in the billionaire class right now. They are not content to have $5 billion, not content to have $10 billion in a family. They want it all. And our message to the billionaire class is that in this country, the economy belongs to all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. I will never forget, as a member of the Senate Budget Committee, I'm the ranking member, the leader of the opposition on the committee. A couple of years ago, we had a representative of the Business Roundtable. Now, many of you don't know what that is. That is an organization of Wall Street executives and CEOs of the largest corporations in America. And we did a little bit of research about the CEOs of these large corporations. And what we found is that almost without exception, each of them had contracts which provided for millions of dollars in retirement benefits when they left the company. That's the way they do it. And yet the representative from this Business Roundtable came before the committee and he said, we want you to cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, cut education, and give enormous tax breaks to millionaires and large corporations. Our job is to stand up to that culture of greed. No, President Trump, we are not going to give you and other billionaires hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks and then cut back on education, food stamps, or the needs of our children or the sick. Ain't gonna happen. Our job is to take on the moneyed interest. And the only way I know as to how we do that is by bringing millions of people into the political process with a newborn understanding that we have got to get involved, we have got to stand together, we have got to prevent the demagogues from trying to divide us up by our race, our gender, or our country of origin. And what that also means is we need to transform the Democratic Party. We need to open the doors of the Democratic Party to working people and to young people. We need to make the Democratic Party not just the party of the East Coast and the West Coast, but a party for all 50 states. We have to create a Democratic Party which is a grassroots party where decisions are made from the bottom on up. But it's not just opening the doors. That is the first step. And that means by opening the doors, we want you to be running for school board, running for city council, running for state representative, running for the Congress. We need you. You know, when I talk to people all over the country and I say you should get involved in the political process, think about running for office or think about supporting somebody else who's good, who's running for office, people say, well, you know, I just don't know enough about economics and I don't know enough about foreign policy. So let me calm your nerves. I am a member of the United States Senate. And if you think you don't know enough about the major issues facing our country, take a look at some of my colleagues. You don't need a PhD in economics to know that Mitch McConnell should be supporting legislation which makes sure that coal miners who are retired get the health care and the pensions that they were promised. Don't need a PhD for that. We are working on legislation which would protect the pensions of some 90,000 coal miners who, if we do not act, will see those pensions savagely cut. Senator McConnell, work with us, protect the retirees who are coal miners. You don't need a PhD in economics to know that it is immoral and bad economics to support legislation that would throw hundreds of thousands of Kentuckians off of the health care that they have, would do serious damage to the economy here. You don't need a PhD to understand that is bad economics and immoral. Donald Trump ran for president and he said, well, Kentucky, well, America, I'm a different type of Republican. I'm going to stand with the working class of this country. Good speech. Unfortunately, he wasn't telling the truth. You don't stand with the working people of this country by supporting health care legislation that throws 24 million people off of health insurance, raises premiums significantly for older workers, defunds Planned Parenthood, and cuts Medicaid by $800 billion. That is not standing with workers. You don't stand with workers when you propose massive increases in military spending and then you cut back on the needs of the elderly and the children. When you cut back and try to eliminate the Meals on Wheels program, after-school program for children. No, President Trump, you're not standing with workers when you give tax breaks to people who don't need them and cut back on programs that people do need. That's standing with the billionaire class, not with workers. But as we go forward and bring more and more people into the political process, it is important that we have an agenda that speaks to the needs of working people. And there's one point I want to remind all of you about. Giving tax breaks to billionaires and cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and education, that's the Trump-McConnell type agenda. That is an agenda supported by very few people. People support an agenda that works for them. They support an agenda which says that instead of having a $7.25 starvation minimum wage in Kentucky, we're going to raise the minimum wage nationally to $15 an hour. That instead of repealing the Affordable Care Act, what we are going to do is go further and join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all as a right. And we're going to do that through a Medicare for all single-payer system. And when we talk about the workforce, all of us are going to stand with the women and end this nonsense of women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Now, I hear a whole lot from my Republican friends about family values. They stay up nights worrying about family values. So I say to my Republican colleagues, if you're really interested in family values, how about the United States joining virtually every other country on earth, including some of the poorest, in guaranteeing paid family and medical leave for the working people of this country? It is not a family value when today a woman in Kentucky or a woman in Vermont gives birth to a beautiful baby, but has to go back to work in a week or two because she lacks the income to stay home and support her baby. That's not a family value. Separating a mother from a baby is not a family value. What a family value is guaranteeing 12 weeks of paid medical and family leave. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. We should not have an infrastructure, roads, bridges, water systems, wastewater plants, airports, dams, and levees that are crumbling. We can and must create millions of jobs, putting our people back to work, rebuilding that infrastructure. All of you know that we live in a highly competitive global economy. And all of you know that most of the good-paying jobs that are being created require post-high school education. 30 years ago, the United States led the world in the percentage of our people who had a college degree. Today, we are in 11th place. We need to end that absurdity. We need to make certain that every person in this country who has the desire and the ability is able to get a college education regardless of the income of his or her family. And that is why we need to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And it is also why we have got to substantially lower the student debt that is plaguing millions of people in this country. Now, some of my Republican colleagues, and occasionally some Democrats, say, well, Bernie, it's a great idea, but it is expensive. And they're right. It is expensive, about $70 billion a year. How are we going to fund this proposal? Well, you remember back in 2009 when Wall Street's greed, recklessness, and illegal behavior destroyed our economy. Suddenly there was money available for them. Congress bailed them out. Well, now it is Wall Street's time to help the working families of this country. That is why we're going to introduce legislation that imposes a speculation tax on Wall Street. What I hope very much is that each and every one of you has the courage to think big, not small. To understand that we are the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. We are not a poor country. And when people tell you that, A, they want hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks for billionaires, but we can't afford to make public colleges and universities tuition free, what they are telling you is utter nonsense. But when we think big, it's not just about creating an economy where people have good jobs that pay them living wages, where people as a right have health care, where kids are able to go to college regardless of their income, where we're able to drink water that is clean, where we are. It is also how we treat each other. In America today, we should be extremely ashamed of the fact that we have more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, Native American, than any other country on earth. How does that happen? How does that happen? Well, it has a lot to do with the fact that there are communities all over this country where youth unemployment is 20 or 30%. So maybe, just maybe, rather than investing $80 billion a year locking up fellow Americans, maybe we want to invest in job creation and education for our young people. We also live in a nation today where there are some 11 million people who are undocumented, who are living in the shadows, who are living in fear. These are people who are working on our farms, they're working in factories, they are sustaining our economy. Instead of scapegoating undocumented people, we need to move toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. I have 4 kids and 7 beautiful grandchildren, and I want them, thank you, come to Vermont, you can visit with them. They'd love to see it. Very friendly kids. I want those kids to be living in a world which is healthy and which is habitable. And here is the truth. The scientific community is virtually unanimous in saying that climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity, and climate change is already causing devastating problems in our country and all over the world. And what the scientists tell us, if we do not get our act together and begin the process of transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, the serious problems we face today are only going to get worse. We're going to see more rising sea levels, more floods, more droughts, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean. So I believe that the time is now for us to aggressively transform our energy system. But when we do that, we do not forget about the people who kept the lights on for decades. We don't discard them. I have supported legislation and will support legislation which puts tens of billions of dollars into rebuilding those communities that have been hurt by the transformation of our energy system. Here is the bottom line. On virtually every major issue facing this country, whether it is raising the minimum wage to a living wage, whether it's pay equity, whether it's rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, whether it is providing health care to all Americans, whether it is improving environmental protection, on all of those issues and more, the vast majority of Americans support a progressive agenda. So our job is to take the progressive message out into the world, to go beyond our zone of comfort, to start talking to working people and say, do you really believe, you who voted for Donald Trump, do you really believe that America needs tax breaks for billionaires and cuts in Medicare and Medicaid and education? Do you really believe that we should eliminate the Meals on Wheels program, which provides one nutritious hot meal a day to seniors, or do away with after-school programs with kids? And I think people will say, no, that's not why I voted for Trump. But we have a lot of work to do. Politics is not easy stuff. There are ups and downs. But what I do know, and what the history of this country is about, is that real change, and this is the moment we are in, never ever takes place from the top on down. It is always from the bottom on up. Ask the coal miners in this state who built the United Mine Workers and their struggles about how you create a process in which working people have dignity. Ask the women who for over 100 years struggled for the right so that women will not be second-class citizens and have the right to vote. Think about those many, many people in the African American community and their white allies who said, we will not tolerate segregation and racism. Think about our gay brothers and sisters who struggled for decades. who struggle to say that in America, people should be able to love whoever they wanted, regardless of gender. None of those victories came overnight. And a lot of people went to jail in those struggles. Some people died. And people worked over and over and year after year in order to fight for economic justice and social justice and racial justice and environmental justice. And that's where we are right now. We are in a moment where we have a president and we have Republican leadership in Congress who are way out of touch with the needs of the American people. Their job today is not to represent the American people. They're representing the billionaire class and their campaign contributors. And our job, and it's not easy, is to get involved in a way that we have never been before. We're not fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for our kids and our grandchildren. We're fighting for the future of this planet. This is the greatest country in the history of the world, so please don't tell me that the United States cannot join the rest of the world and guarantee health care to all people. Of course we can. Don't tell me that we can't raise the minimum wage to a living wage so no one who works 40 hours a week lives in poverty. Don't tell me we can't rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and build the affordable housing that millions of Americans need. Don't tell me that we cannot have pay equity for women in America. We can. Don't tell me that we can't create a political system which involves one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. Don't tell me that in this great nation we cannot make certain that all of our young people have the ability to go to college regardless of their income. The issue in front of us is whether or not we have the guts to take on a billionaire class and all of their power. I say yes, we do. So, brothers and sisters, in this pivotal moment in American history where we can go one way or we can go the other way, let us stand together, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, gay and straight, male and female, those of us born in America, those of us who immigrated to America. Let us not let demagogues divide us up. Let us stay focused on the prize. And the prize is creating an economy that works for all of us and a political system not dominated by a handful of billionaires. Thank you all very much.
I miss Bernie. I miss Bernie. Don't you? It's, thank you all for being here. With more than 110 people joining us tonight. That was just a surprise. You know, didn't know he was gonna, I knew that was happening. I didn't know I was gonna pick it up for stream, guys. So thanks you for joining us. Nice to have that. Nice to have that. And thank you to Wave 3 News in Louisville for bringing us that. Oh, they're singing a song. Forgive me. I'll shut up. We'll go back to the song here, guys. There. They're having a hard time with that here. The buffering's on their end on Facebook's, guys. Wow, they really are going all the way back to like the rally days with this. and just look, it's cutting in and out all over the place. Just know, even if you think Tom Perez is a tool, and he is a tool, he's a tool in our shed. And we get to take control of that shed. I'm excited about that. And if we don't like the tools, we just get rid of them. Put new tools in their place. I'm a tool. I'm a tool for Lynn County. I'm proud of that. Let's get rid of the tools we don't like. I wish this wasn't cutting in and out. And the revolution will be buffered. Yes. Thank you, everybody. Julie Love, Ski, Robert, Lynn, See the Change, Froze, Louise, Phil, Nork Y2K, Metalhead, Jupiter, Firestar. We've got so many friends in here. Thank you all for being here. All right. Well, they're just still going. Look at Tom. You know, everybody bags on. Everybody's bagging on the establishment, but I think some of them really want to feel the passion. They really want to feel the burn, and it's okay. You know. See, Firestar 101 says I'm a good tool. Why can't Tom become a good tool, guys? Why can't we give all the tools in the shed a chance to clean off, shake off the rust, and become good tools? I think they all get a chance. One chance. Ski, I love my new home. It's beautiful. Perez is a tool. You're welcome, guys. All right. Here, it looks like it's it's degrading quick. My favorite thing about the internet and broadcasting and doing restreams of stuff like this is the fact that we get hearts and stuff, thumbs up, hearts up, flowing across the bottom of the screen. There we go, close up of somebody's hands. That's great stuff right there. All right, we're moving on. Thank you all for being here. Somebody earlier today had said, why don't you play End of the Corporate Age? And you're right, I should. That's a happy song. Happy times right now. Give me a minute to set it up and we'll go out of here with End of the Corporate Age. Got a lot of stuff going on if you're still hanging with us. We've got March for Science coming up on the 22nd. That's Earth Day. March for Science. There'll be rallies everywhere. There's the Awake premiere, Awake the film, Josh Fox, Myron Dewey. We've got restreaming rights, so I will be restreaming that for all of us on that day. Please join us for that. We've also got Bernie on Thursday. We're probably going to hear all the same speech, but he'll be with Keith Ellison. So if you don't like the Tom Perez tool, we've got Keith Ellison, the tool. And you guys can have your opinions about him, but I'm just want to see how he votes. What do you think about Keith Ellison, the tool? And yeah, tool reform. Exactly, Occupat. Tool reform. Get some sleep. Do I look that bad, Phil? Jeez. All right. Let me set this up and we'll get the hell out of here. Let me set this up. Hang on. This is End of the Corporate Age because Bernie got me all fired up again. It's almost like the old days, except this time we understand a lot better what we have to do. Don't you think? I think so. I know, no gray sweater. I was just unprepared, totally unprepared for this. Really. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for Awake at 10:30 a.m. And then we got Chad Talks With in the evening. He's talking with Dan Roll. You guys all remember Dan. He's got a book deal. He's going to talk about that, what he's been doing in Nevada, and whether he's running for another office. I don't know. We'll find out. So anyway, join us tomorrow for Awake, and then Chad Talks With after that. And then Thursday with Bernie, Friday with another show, Saturday big show, and March for Science, Earth Day, all that stuff, just so much going on. Sunday with Tatum Live. We're doing a lot here. Thank you so much for your patronage. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Here is End of the Corporate Age by the Color Bars. Gotta be my favorite song. One of my many favorite songs. I got too many favorite songs of the Revolution, but this one's a happy one, you know? Here we go.
The wealthiest people of this country have seen a tremendous increase in their income, while at the same time, the standard of living of working people and poor people has declined.
CEOs make more than 500 times of what their workers make. The middle class is shrinking.
Poverty is increasing, while at the same time, the people on top are doing phenomenally well.
People always tell me, man, you're wasting your time. Can't you see the monolith is immobile? Yes, I tell them kindly, still I've made up my mind. 'Cause the sky above's as big and limitless as it ever was. Gather round, people, in the town square. It's the end of the corporate age. There's a new caveat, let the sailor beware. This is the end of the corporate age. There's no quick and easy remedy that won't end in more calamity.
I mean, this is a fantastic time. From my standpoint, this is the best time that I've ever had.
All the bloviators keep on spreading the meme that there's only so much room at the table, telling us we're lucky to be eating the scraps, but we've got all the facts and we're taking our places back.
Billionaires shouldn't be allowed to hide in the shadows. Make them step out in the open where the American people can see.
Gather round, people, in the town square. It's the end of the corporate age. There's a new caveat, let the sailor beware. This is the end of the corporate age.
We are well on our way to seeing our great country move toward an oligarchic form of government.
There's no quick and easy remedy that won't end in more calamity.
Corporate America, Wall Street, the major campaign donors are so powerful that no president can take them on unless tens of millions of people say, guess what, Washington? You are going to start representing the needs of working families and the middle class.